In our collective memory, the stars of the 1950s shine with a polished glamour, yet Hollywood often tried to sugarcoat the raw truths behind their beauty. Take Sophia Loren, who stunned the cameras at Cannes by confidently embracing her natural look, a defiant nod to her proud Italian roots. Or Katherine Hepburn, a four-time Oscar winner who flatly refused the razor on the MGM sets, choosing authenticity over becoming a soulless doll. Even the radiant Ingrid Bergman left experts baffled by preserving her rustic Nordic charm, despite the industry's rigid standards. According to unedited raw footage, it was this very genuineness that acted as a magnet for their timeless appeal. Today, let's look back at 10 legends who proved that true allure only blooms when we dare to be ourselves. If you cherish the authentic beauty of these icons, don't forget to like and subscribe as we revisit these precious cinematic memories together. Sophia Loren, the soul of the Mediterranean. If one image were to redefine 1950s cinematic allure, it would undoubtedly be Sophia Loren. To the American audience of the time, Loren was more than just an actress. She was a cultural phenomenon, a fiery Italian wave that shook the rigid aesthetic standards of Hollywood. Yet there lies a truth that magazines of the era often adorned with flowery labels like liberation or Italian authenticity. Sophia Loren never compromised with the razor. One of the most priceless historical records dates back to the 1955 Cannes Film Festival. Amidst a sea of starlets cinched into corsets and displaying meticulously groomed, American-style smooth skin, Sophia appeared like a goddess stepped out of myth. As she waved to her admirers, archival photographs from Life magazine captured her completely natural underarms. This was no oversight or lack of preparation. It was a manifesto. To a woman raised in Pozzuoli body hair was a piece of her identity, a symbol of maturity and fertile vitality. This naturalism followed her onto the silver screen, most notably in the masterpiece Marriage Italian Style, 1964. In artistic close-ups as Sophia delivers the dramatic expressions of her character, Filumena, the dark hair under her arms is clearly visible to the audience. According to post-production records, American producers initially intended to ask her to shave to better suit the seamlessly smooth tastes of the United States. However, Loren stood her ground. She understood that her appeal did not come from imitating the washed-out blondes of California, but from the raw, untamed authenticity of a true Southern European woman. In that era, an Oscar-winning star appearing with natural underarms was never viewed as unhygienic or unrefined, a sharp contrast to the judgmental lens of later decades. Instead, it was seen as the emblem of a woman confident in her self-worth, one who viewed her body as a masterpiece of nature rather than a commodity to be polished. It was this very pride that allowed Sophia Loren to win over even the most cynical American viewers, proving that the most intense sensuality is always rooted in the truth. Even years later, long after her youth, Sophia continued to reflect on her views of natural beauty in interviews, a message to future generations: never let industrial standards strip away your innate grace. Her image with arms raised high at Cannes was not just a red carpet moment. It was a milestone in cinematic history regarding a woman's autonomy over her own body. Bidding farewell to the fiery spirit of Italy, we return to the heart of Hollywood to meet another legend. While Sophia Loren used her allure to protect her identity, our next icon used her wit and iron will to challenge the entire American studio system, a true rebel in silken robes. Katherine Hepburn, the rebel in silk. In the dazzling world of 1940s and 50s, Hollywood, the sight of a woman in trousers striding with confidence, a nearly bare face, and a voice of steel was a true cultural shock. This was Katherine Hepburn, the winner of an unprecedented 4 Academy Awards, an icon of independence whom the studio system both craved to own and feared they could never control. She represented a minimalist philosophy of life, where the vanity of makeup and tedious beauty rituals were cast aside in favor of the true value of intellect and talent. Fascinating accounts in her autobiography, Me Stories of My Life, reveal her perspective on her own appearance. Hepburn did not view her body as a canvas to be groomed for the pleasure of others. Instead of spending hours on the painful hair removal procedures or meticulous trimming practiced by her contemporaries, she chose to let nature take its course. Photographers and collaborators often shared stories of her uncompromising professional demeanor. Hepburn was willing to fight to keep the unpolished edges of her physique, believing that audiences came to the theater to see a real human being embodying a character, not to admire an over-burnished product. This explains why in many black and white films the studio lighting occasionally highlights the fine down on her arms, creating a vivid and honest image. Her presence serves as a reminder that even in an era where perfection was worshipped, there were personalities strong enough to stand apart from the invisible pressures of the crowd. Until her final years, the image of Katherine Hepburn remained synonymous with a simple yet commanding authority. Her refusal to comply with strict grooming standards was never seen as an act of neglect, but rather as a steadfast commitment to her personal identity. In her world, beauty was not found in what we strip away, but in what we dare to retain amidst the tide of imposition. This lifestyle cemented her as a timeless icon, a woman who proved that respecting one's own body is the ultimate height of elegance. While the intellectual stubbornness of this great American actress created an unprecedented precedent in Hollywood, a star from the distant north was bringing a breath of fresh air that was equally steadfast. Where the former used grit to confront the system, our next icon used grace and the rustic beauty of her homeland to reject being Americanized by industrial beauty rituals. Ingrid Bergman, the pure Nordic beauty. In the mid-1940s, while Hollywood was preoccupied with crafting cookie-cutter beauties that sparkled under Technicolor lights, the arrival of a young girl from Sweden created a completely different definition of allure. Ingrid Bergman did not bring drama or a meticulously polished look. She brought purity, a nearly makeup-free complexion, and a steadfast commitment to the natural values she inherited from her Northern European homeland. According to production diaries and post-production records of the classic film, Casablanca, Hollywood beauty experts once tried to persuade Bergman to alter her appearance to better suit American tastes. They wanted her to pluck her eyebrows thinner and undergo body hair removal procedures so her skin would appear perfectly smooth under the lens. However, Bergman gently but firmly refused. To her, beauty was not a mask to be worn, but the truest reflection of one's soul and origins. She would rather expose the natural down on her arms or her unshaven underarms than turn herself into an Americanized product in the hands of the studios. This persistence sometimes created challenges for cinematographers of the era. Under intense studio lights, her natural fine hairs would occasionally catch the light, creating a soft halo around her body. Instead of hiding it, Bergman viewed it as a part of her vitality. Many archival photographs and original film reels show that, even in elegant evening gowns, she preserved the rustic authenticity of her skin. According to later biographical accounts, it was this natural blonde beauty, including the smallest details on her body, that helped her forge an intense connection with the audience. They saw in her a real human being, a woman of flesh and blood amidst the hairless dolls of the movie capital. Throughout her illustrious career, Ingrid Bergman never felt the need to chase strict grooming standards to prove her appeal. She believed that a great actor must remain as natural as possible so their characters could possess depth. Her presence on screen with legs not overly groomed or natural underarms became a symbol of authenticity. American audiences of the time did not criticize this. On the contrary, they were captivated by the warmth and self-respect radiating from a body that refused to succumb to industrial aesthetic pressures. The beauty of Ingrid Bergman is a testament that elegance can go hand in hand with simplicity. She proved to all of Hollywood that a woman could stand at the pinnacle of fame and desire without needing to eliminate any natural part of her body. To this day, her image in black and white films remains a standard of nobility, a reminder that what is most original always possesses the most enduring vitality through time. Moving away from the pure and serene beauty of the North, we turn our gaze toward a more intense soul, one once dubbed the wild animal of American cinema. If Ingrid Bergman used gentleness to protect her identity, our next icon chose rebellion, casting off all control of the studio system to find the absolute freedom of her body in a far-off land. Ava Gardner, Freedom Beyond Control. Dubbed the world's most beautiful wild animal, Ava Gardner possessed not only a beauty that overwhelmed Hollywood, but also a soul that refused to be tamed. Throughout her years under the suffocating control of California studios, she felt stifled by aesthetic standards measured down to the last millimeter. Hollywood demanded she be a flawless goddess, silky and blemish-free, but Ava craved the opposite, the rawness and freedom of an ordinary human being. The greatest turning point in her life and in her relationship with her body came when she decided to leave America for Spain. According to her autobiography, Ava, My Story. This was the period when she truly shed the artificial shell that the studios had meticulously crafted. In Madrid, amidst late-night dances and a bohemian lifestyle, Ava gradually abandoned the rigid grooming rituals she had once been forced to follow like dogma. She no longer concerned herself with frequent shaving as Hollywood producers demanded. Her image-bronzed skin, tousled hair, and completely natural underarms became a symbol of personal liberation. Post-production documents and paparazzi photographs from this era capture a very different Ava Gardner, one more primal and untamed. In photos taken during European vacations, she is seen confidently raising her arms, exposing the naturalness that her American contemporaries often struggled to hide. To her, retaining body hair was not an act of neglect. It was a way to reconnect with her instincts after years of being treated like a display commodity. She believed that a woman's most intense allure emerges when she stops trying to be perfect for the sake of others. This transformation did not diminish her star power in the eyes of the public. On the contrary, audiences were mesmerized by an authentic Ava Gardner, a woman who carried the scent of the earth, the sun, and freedom. Even when returning to film projects shot in Europe, she maintained this persona. While studio lights might have highlighted the rustic texture of her skin, it only added depth to the characters she portrayed. She proved that a woman could be a global sex symbol even while rejecting industrial beauty rituals. The life of Ava Gardner serves as a testament to finding oneself through accepting the body in its most primitive state. She chose to live a life without the censorship of a razor or the constraints of aesthetic rules. Until her final years, that wild animal spirit remained reminding us that the most precious freedom is the freedom to live truly within the form nature intended. While Ava Gardner found her freedom in the wild spirit of Spain across the border, another French muse was creating a similar aesthetic earthquake. If Ava represented a rebellion of the soul, our next icon turned bohemian charm and raw beauty into a lifestyle that influenced the entire world, from her beehive hair down to legs that had never known the strictness of a razor. Brigitte Bardot, the Muse of Liberation. In the 1950s and 60s, as the world transitioned into an era of freedom and rebellion, a beauty icon from France completely redefined the meaning of sensuality. It was an effortless allure, a strange combination of childlike innocence and fatal seduction. This woman did not just bring a new fashion sense to Hollywood. She brought a raw, instinctive French philosophy where excessive perfection was often seen as lacking a soul. She was the embodiment of liberation, a personality who never allowed herself to be boxed into the rigid standards of body grooming. Her image is forever linked to the sun-drenched beaches of Saint-Tropez, where her naturally tousled, beehive-tinted hair and bronzed skin became a global brand. According to iconic photographs by Terry O'Neill, the public frequently encountered her in her most natural state, unshaven legs and completely rustic underarms. To her, picking up a razor to erase the traces of life from her skin seemed like an alien and unnecessary task. She believed that true beauty must radiate from a sense of comfort within one's own body, rather than striving for an artificial smoothness that only existed in meticulously retouched portraits. In Hollywood, where producers once tried to mold her into the archetype of the refined starlet, she responded with a silent but commanding defiance. Post-production records reveal that many American filmmakers discreetly suggested she undergo hair removal treatments to suit the mainstream tastes of the time. However, she remained steadfast in her messy chic aesthetic. The presence of natural hair on her body under the lens was never viewed as an aesthetic flaw. On the contrary, it created a wild magnetism, a beauty so real it was breathtaking. Audiences saw in her a woman living and breathing, not a polished wax figure. This uncompromising spirit gave birth to a new cultural wave. She proved that sex appeal does not depend on how smooth your skin is, but on how you cherish what is instinctive. Many of her films and fashion spreads captured moments where she confidently strode with unshaven legs, an image of power and freedom. To the connoisseurs of that era, this was not neglect. It was the pinnacle of confidence. She taught an entire generation of women that the most natural beauty is the most desirable. Her influence was so profound that even the strictest American beauty standards had to retreat before such authenticity. She lived a life without the censorship of a razor turning body hair into a part of a free and bohemian lifestyle. Today, looking back at those vintage films, audiences can still feel the passionate breath of youth and the body positivity she transmitted, a timeless message about loving oneself in its most primitive state. While the French muse brought a raw spontaneity that upended cinematic norms back in Hollywood, another icon conquered audiences with a completely different demeanor, sharp, cool, and a beauty so honest it was piercing. If the former used wildness to rebel, our next legend used her composure and unrefined skin to assert the status of an A-list star who would never succumb to vanity. Lauren Bacall, sharp and authentic, stepping onto the silver screen with a piercing gaze and a powerful husky voice, this woman redefined the concept of femininity in Hollywood's film noir. She didn't need billowing skirts or a radiant smile to capture the hearts of her audience. She conquered them through a confidence that radiated from her core and an authentic beauty untouched by any aesthetic filters. In an era where women were often viewed as mere ornaments, she stood as a formidable entity, refusing to compromise with any demand to make herself softer or smoother. According to records from photo shoots for Harper's Bazaar in the 1940s, her beauty was a direct challenge to the makeup artists of the time. While her contemporaries were often required to wax facial hair arms and undergo permanent underarm hair removal to achieve porcelain-smooth skin under the flashbulbs, she maintained a stunningly rustic style. Early, high-resolution portraits show that her skin retained its fine, natural down, and her underarms had never known the strictness of a razor. To her, authenticity was the foundation of style. A complexion with the traces of nature was always more valuable than an industrially polished facade. Her legendary relationship with husband Humphrey Bogart also stood as a testament to this self-respect. She never felt the need to alter her appearance to become more seductive by the standards of the crowd. Behind-the-scenes notes reveal that her natural demeanor, including her disregard for body hair removal, was precisely what made her so distinct and captivating in the eyes of great directors. She proved that true allure lies in the sharp focus of one's eyes and the confidence in every movement, rather than the absolute smoothness of one's skin. Audiences saw in her a woman of power, one who held her destiny in her own hands and refused to let anyone touch the natural identity of her body. In many classic black-and-white films under dramatic close-up shots, the rawness of her skin still pulsed with life. Instead of using thick layers of powder or aesthetic measures to hide, she chose to let everything exist according to its own laws. The presence of natural body hair on an A-list star of her caliber sent a powerful message to the American public of that era. True beauty requires neither excessive control nor over-refining. It is the synthesis of talent, personality, and compassion toward the form one possesses. Until the final years of her illustrious career, she remained steadfast in that persona, a calm elegance that required no razor to assert its femininity. She lived and dedicated herself to cinema with her most honest face and a body that refused to succumb to vain aesthetic pressures. This made her an enduring icon, a reminder that a woman's power begins with the courage to be true to herself. From the commanding sharpness of a noir star, we turn our gaze toward a more intense theatrical soul from Italy, one who turned every bodily imperfection into a medal of truth. If the former used composure to protect her identity, our next icon possessed a fierce Mother Earth instinct, a woman ready to challenge photographers never to touch a single wrinkle or natural trace of her being. Anna Magnani, the instinct of Mother Earth. In the cinematic capital of Rome and later in the very heart of Hollywood, there was a woman who became the dread of any photo retoucher attempting to mold her into a conventional beauty. She was a fiery spirit, a woman with pure Italian theatrical blood in her veins who walked onto the Oscar stage with an unmistakable aura. She did not possess a delicate, picture-perfect beauty. She possessed the beauty of truth, of fierce life experiences etched into every fiber of her being. To her, every wrinkle and every strand of body hair were medals of time, and she defended them as fiercely as she guarded her own soul. Her most famous quote to photographers, "Don't hide my wrinkles, it took me a lifetime to get them," did not just apply to her face. It was the guiding principle for her entire public presence. According to archival records from the filming of The Rose Tattoo in the United States, Anna Magnani created an unprecedented precedent. In dramatic scenes, as she raised her arms in anger or profound sorrow, the abundant hair under her arms appeared clearly before the lens. She had no intention of hiding it, and legendary directors like Federico Fellini or Tennessee Williams understood that forcing her to shave or wear heavy makeup would mean losing this powerful, cinematic beast. Her allure stemmed from a raw instinct often called Mother Earth. While Hollywood contemporaries were bound by strict grooming regimes to achieve wax-like skin, she appeared at international events with legs and underarms that were completely natural. Reporters of the time noted that her presence brought a sense of authenticity that was almost frightening. She did not need industrial smoothness to prove her womanhood. It was the rawness, at times the wildness of her body that made her hauntingly seductive. Audiences saw in her the image of real mothers and wives, women who had no time and no desire to stand before a mirror with a razor just to satisfy alien standards. It was this steadfastness that helped her become the first Italian actress to win the Academy Award for Best Actress. She proved to American connoisseurs that an unpolished body could shine brilliantly under the Oscar lights. According to classic film reviews, the authenticity of her body was the most vital catalyst for her acting. When viewers saw her sweat, saw her natural skin and the hair under her arms move with every labored breath, they knew it was real emotion, not a glossy staged performance. Anna Magnani lived a life of absolute loyalty to the truth. Until her final days, she remained a symbol of the refusal of vanity. She taught Hollywood a valuable lesson. Beauty does not lie in hiding our human nature, but in the courage to expose it with pride. For her seduction required no aid from cosmetics or razors. It lived in the fierce vitality flowing through every cell. While Anna Magnani's Mother Earth instinct asserted the power of authenticity in acting, another Italian beauty icon brought an intriguing visual contrast. If the former used rawness to reveal her inner soul, our next legend, once dubbed the Mona Lisa of the 20th century, used her very opulence and luxury to prove that body hair and supreme elegance can exist side by side. Gina Lollobrigida, allure without barriers. In the 1950s, the name Gina Lollobrigida was a gold standard for world-class beauty, an icon of elegance before whom even Hollywood's strictest standards bowed. Dubbed the most beautiful woman in the world, at the time she appeared on the silver screen with legendary curves and a face as flawless as if carved from marble. Yet behind this seemingly meticulous exterior, she maintained an absolute bodily freedom that few expected a total refusal of hair removal. At international red carpet events and in archival photographs by renowned photographers, Gina was often seen draped in the most expensive haute couture evening gowns. But when she raised her arms to adjust her hair or pose for the lens, a completely natural underarm area appeared, a striking contrast to the sparkling diamonds around her neck. To her, beauty was not a series of subtractions. She did not believe that hairless skin was a prerequisite for being noble. Her confidence was so profound that she regarded body hair as a natural part of a mature woman, a detail inseparable from her fiery magnetism. Throughout her illustrious career in Hollywood, Gina frequently faced American beauty experts who constantly sought to optimize her image using the grooming methods of the era. However, according to photo archives from 1950s film festivals, she never compromised. Photos of her at Cannes or Venice reveal underarms that had never known a razor, even when she wore daring, sleeveless designs. This steadfastness forged the concept of allure without barriers. She proved that a woman could stand at the pinnacle of luxury desired by the whole world without adhering to the restrictive beauty rituals of the American film industry. American audiences of this era, particularly women, saw in Gina a model of self-respect. She wasn't just acting, she was teaching them how to love their own bodies. According to records from the Italian film press, the subtle rivalry between her and Sophia Loren lay not only in talent, but also in who could maintain the most rustic, original essence of a Mediterranean woman amidst the glitz of Hollywood. Gina's charm was never diminished by a few natural hairs. On the contrary, that very authenticity breathed a fertile vitality into her image, setting her completely apart from the sanitized stars who lacked the character found in commercial cinema. Even after leaving the spotlight to pursue a career in photography and sculpture, Gina Lollobrigida held firm to that philosophy. She viewed the human body as a wonder of creation and any effort to flatten its natural state as a waste. The image of her in magnificent gowns with natural underarms became a lesson in self-confidence, a firm assertion that true nobility radiates from within and is never limited by any artificial aesthetic standards. Moving away from the authoritative splendor of Italy's Mona Lisa, we turn to another Mediterranean beauty, one who possessed a youthful and defiant aura. While Gina used luxury to protect her identity, our next icon used the stubbornness of youth to flatly reject million-dollar contracts if they came with the demand to refurbish her body to fit the American mold. Claudia Cardinale, the uncompromising muse. As the new wave of European cinema began to wash over the Atlantic and into the States, Claudia Cardinale emerged as a symbol of youthful vibrance and a thirst for freedom. With her signature husky voice and a radiant beauty inherited from her Italian-Tunisian roots, she quickly caught the eyes of Hollywood moguls. However, unlike many young stars ready to reinvent themselves for a piece of the spotlight, Claudia brought a steadfastness that was nothing short of astonishing. She would sooner walk away from lucrative contracts than let anyone touch her bodily autonomy. In later interviews with the Los Angeles Times, Claudia revealed that upon her arrival in Hollywood studio, executives immediately pressured her to undergo permanent hair removal and reshape her eyebrows to look more appealing to American audiences. To these demands, she offered only a blunt refusal. To her, body hair was not a defect to be eliminated, but a part of the Mediterranean woman's heritage. In masterpieces like The Leopard and the Pink Panther, viewers can clearly see the rustic nature of her underarms with every movement. It was this very naturalism that created an irresistible allure, a beauty that required no aid from industrial aesthetic standards. Claudia's proud stubbornness eventually forced American filmmakers to yield. They realized that her value lay in her authenticity, the fine down on her arms, and her unpolished grace. According to post-production documents, she viewed retaining her body hair as a way to preserve her poor soul amidst a world of artifice. American audiences of the time, instead of judging, were mesmerized by a beauty that knew no fear of prejudice. She proved that true charm does not lie in a wax-like hairless complexion, but in the self-respect of a woman who never compromises her identity. Concluding our journey of Mediterranean muses, we turn our gaze toward an icon who completely redefined the sensuality of the 1970s. While previous generations used rebellion to protect their heritage, our final figure turned simplicity into a lifestyle as natural as breathing a beauty that remains a benchmark for absolute freedom and liberation today. Jane Birkin, the icon of the era of freedom. If there is one name that represents the transition of feminine beauty from constraint to absolute liberty, it is Jane Birkin. Though British by birth, she became the greatest muse of France, turning simplicity into an aesthetic religion. American audiences over 50 surely remember the vibrant youth of the 70s, where the image of a slender girl with a wicker basket, long flowing hair, and completely natural underarms became a symbol for an entire generation that no longer believed in artificial standards. Jane Birkin did not view letting her body hair grow naturally as a political manifesto or a calculated rebellion. To her, it was simply living. In iconic photo shoots with Serge Gainsbourg or in poetic film reels, Jane frequently appeared with unshaven underarms and legs. She brought a new concept of femininity, fragile yet powerful, simple yet immensely elegant. According to 1970s photo archives, she was the one who broke the barrier of women having to clean up their bodies to be attractive. Jane's sensuality came from the fact that she never tried to hide anything, including the most natural parts of a woman's physique. Her influence was so immense that the Birkin style spread globally, forcing even the largest fashion houses to rethink true beauty. Audiences of the time did not see neglect in her image. They saw freedom, the ultimate luxury a woman can possess. Jane proved that when you are confident enough to exist without makeup for your body, you become invincible. Her image with arms raised and natural hair visible did not diminish her nobility. Instead, it deepened the portrait of a modern intellectual woman who would never succumb to societal pressures. Until her final days, Jane Birkin remained steadfast in that bohemian spirit. She lived a full life with no room for the censorship of a razor or the fear of whether she was smooth enough for others. She closes our list as a gentle yet firm reminder that the most authentic, enduring, and precious beauty is always the beauty of freedom. 10 women, 10 legends, but they all meet at one common point: the courage to be themselves in a world that always wanted them to change. From the fiery passion of Sophia Loren to the liberation of Jane Birkin, they proved that body hair was never a barrier to desire, but rather a testament to an authentic life. These icons left behind a priceless legacy. The most radiant beauty only appears when a woman is in full command and proud of her original form. Which star's story impressed you the most on this list? Leave your thoughts in the comments below so we can revisit these precious cinematic memories together. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss our next journeys into Hollywood history. Thank you for watching. Thank you.